In today's episode, I address starting your solopreneur business and facing the fears and negative beliefs that are crushing you in the beginning. And this is a very common pattern that I notice with prospects and even clients. Once they say, yeah, Terry, let's work together, they still have this stigma around fear and negative beliefs that keep them from taking risks and moving forward and being excited about their work. Completely understandable. If you have been coming out of corporate environment where you had all those resources, income, everything felt like, oh, I'm secure, I'm set, this is great, I can do my thing, I know these people, I know this business, I'm really good at it. You cruise along and then one day, boom, you get laid off. And what do? Well, you can go find another job or you can consider starting your own business. There are other choices too. You can retire, you can whatever. But in this episode, I want to make it really clear that it's completely in your control to be brave and courageous and move forward with your business in spite of the fears and negative beliefs, because they'll never go away. You're always going to have the tendency to worry about stuff, to stress about stuff. But when you become the master of your thinking, when you're able to focus on where you're going, what you love about being on your own, what you love about working with the clients that you have and will have, all those things will help propel you into a future of success. And these are the things that you need to really own when you first consider going into business for yourself, when you're starting your solopreneur business. Because once you really understand that it's completely in your control, then you're like, okay, so I can't blame other people or the economy or the marketplace or my family situation and the things that I'm responsible for financially and emotionally and all those things. It's really up to you to make it work or not. And so in this episode, I talk about it. And this has been coming up a little more frequently recently because I've been getting a lot of new prospects that come to me for help, and they are perfect clients in many cases. I know I could help these people, but they have this trepidation about it's either about spending money or really putting themselves out there in a more transparent, vulnerable way, which I actually push them to do because that is, to me, a very successful formula. That's what I talk about in this episode. And I really want to stress the notion that it's perfectly normal to have fears, to believe in belief systems that are keeping you small and keeping you safe, because that's how the brain's working. It's all about survival. It's all about keeping you in control in the situation that you know and are familiar with right now, and not putting things at risk or at stake. But when you choose to stay in that box, and it's all about how the brain protects us. But if you stay in that box, you're giving up a potential future that could be incredible. Let's just leave it at that. Just absolutely incredible. Not only from a work joy standpoint, but the lives that you'll impact through the work that you do and the freaking money you're going to make. When you step back and just assess, where's my head at in starting this business? What do I really believe to be true? And am I prepared to go ahead and do this? Because initially it may be a little difficult in the beginning. But at the end of the day, you will be so much more satisfied if you take ownership of how you think and focus toward where you're going and how awesome it's going to be. And then shore up and take care of the things that you need to take care of in order to give you runway to do that. I hope you enjoy the episode. So let's get into it. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. Not everybody is a deliberate solopreneur. A lot of us are reluctant solopreneurs, and what I mean by that is we end up being a solopreneur as a result of something happening outside of our control, such as a layoff, a company closes, whatever gig you had going on before just goes away, they run out of money. If there's innate desire to start a business at the time of this occurrence, then that's when a lot of solopreneurs are born. I look at myself and say, even though I love having my own business, I've always had entrepreneurial drives under the hood, I'm a reluctant solopreneur because I was laid off. And that's when I started my business. And at the time, it was more just, hey, I'm going to freelance, see how it goes, maybe find a job at some point. But after a short while, I realized that, wow, I have been looking for something like this for a really long time. I didn't really like how it came about. When things like this happen, and I really believe in the power of attraction and your energy and your thoughts. And if we really want something deep down, if the truest expression of who we are and what we're about, it will come to us eventually. But the more we embrace the idea and lean into it and allow it to happen versus resist it for whatever reasons, then it's going to probably be dropped in our lap the hard way, which is in the form of a relationship breakup, a financial downturn, a job loss, or a health crisis. I need to share this story because I'm seeing a pattern. And when I see a pattern in my own life, I'm like, all right, so what am I doing in my own thinking that's attracting these types of circumstances or people or whatever that seems to be happening? So I do that, but I also look at it as an opportunity for me to do an episode like this where I am actually talking about a specific topic that I'm seeing as something that's happening in my audience is the best way to tell it, because obviously I have my own perspective and experience that is life. And that's what I want to address in this episode. What I've been noticing amongst my clients and prospects. I would say I can bring my best work. Well, honestly, I could probably do it for any type of industry, but I seem to be really happy and successful helping solopreneurs who have had a long corporate career and get riffed from their job or laid off, or they just decide they've had enough and they want to start a consulting business, a service-based business where they take their expertise, their experience, their network, their know-how, and go out into the world and solve problems their way, using all the knowledge that they gained through the experience of working for a company. I've had the opportunity to work with several new clients that were in this situation. One in particular was someone who had actually left corporate on their own, was kind of like around the time of COVID, and had been doing okay, had gotten some contracts and was kind of going at it ham-fisted and was just lucky enough to get enough business. There was no real strategic dedication to the intention of communication, marketing, and just the whole business brand. It's interesting because a lot of the corporate mentality is lingering. Sometimes it's overshadowing, and sometimes it's overwhelming. In other words, a lot of these ex-corporate folks who have tons of experience and they're brilliant, they're really, really brilliant, but they don't know how to operate outside of the corporate setting. That's one of the things that I definitely excel at helping them with. But there was another prospect so on this particular one that had business for a while and was starting to notice the pipeline drying up and wanted to bring me in to help with some things. There was a lot of mindset issues that were getting in the way. A lot of inward thinking of not I'm not good enough or anything like that, but just like this old way of thinking that kept them boxed into what they had been doing. And so what we were able to do was to help them break out of that. Another prospect that I'm actually having conversations with was a referral from an existing client that I'm incredibly successful with. And this client has been amazing at sending me prospects and telling them you have to work with Terry. And a lot of them are in that situation where they've been in corporate for a really long time. And then they either got laid off or had a job change and they just couldn't replace their employment, etc. All of a sudden they're faced with, okay, I'm okay for now because I have a good severance, or okay, I got a good package, early retirement kind of thing. Because these people are mainly in their 50s and 60s, but they still have so much to offer. And they're probably at the pinnacle of their career with as far as who they know, what they do, what they're able to do, the confidence they have in their ability to bring solutions to a lot of chronic problems that all different types of businesses are having. But there's a missing ingredient in their attitude about who they are acting as a solopreneur out in the marketplace. So I've been talking with this one prospect, and they've been excited about the idea of having their own consulting business. They are in a field that definitely could use their help. They have a great personality, very articulate, smart. I mean, they've got all the boxes in the right column checked. But what seems to be missing, and what I want to talk about in this episode, is a true commitment to moving into a direction with their vocation, with a standalone business outside of the corporate safety net, which I think is a misnomer, quite frankly. There's no such thing. You can get fired at the drop of a hat, believe me, especially in today's economy where companies are tightening their belts and they're getting rid of a lot of salary bloat and a lot of overstaffing that kind of got ramped up after COVID and the good years where a lot of money was being spent. And now things are different. And until things level out, it's going to be that way for a while. So we used to have like the employee had all the control. Well, now it's back in the employer's hands, and they are changing their workforces dramatically. Back to the prospect. I was having quite a few conversations, had an introductory call, like I always do, because I like to kind of get to know them, what they've done, what they're interested in, and so on, as well as get a read on whether or not they're ready to work with me, which I do with everybody. As much as I was very eagerly looking forward to working with this prospect, because I knew where they were, I could definitely help them, like definitely get them on the right track, build the things that they needed, help them with their whole mindset. But they were dealing with something that was fear-based, and they wanted reassurance after reassurance. The questions I was getting was around how much is it going to cost? How long does it take to reach a level of success with a new business? And there were several other questions about the scope, like what do we do? How does it work? So it kind of makes me wonder if this is a guardian in the five voices. Anyway, if you're into the five voices, that's one of the five voices is guardian. And they're the ones that always ask a lot of questions and want to know all the details. And it's not because they're questioning you, but it's because they really want to be informed and have all the detail and the facts before they make a decision. That's perfectly innocent. But there was more to this than just the fact gathering. It was the desire for almost like a guarantee that, and I'm never going to give a guarantee like that, you're going to have success if you work with me kind of thing. That's ridiculous. Because here's the thing, it's totally out of my control whether or not they have success. Can I give them the tools and the guidance and the platform to function and do the things they need to do in order to grow their business? Absolutely. That's what I do for a living, right? But this particular situation was more like, if I do this really scary thing, is it going to work out for me? If I do this really scary thing, will my partner still care about me and be okay with everything that we're doing? If I do this scary thing, how long will I be uncomfortable? Whether that's financially uncomfortable or just living in the unknown gap, am I going to be okay? A lot of these questions were coming to me, communications were coming to me, and part of me was like, are you kidding me? Thinking about this particular prospect and how accomplished they are in their career and they were presenting themselves this way, I almost felt like I needed to talk them out of starting their own business. Because let me tell you what, solopreneurship, having a one-person business, even if you want to grow it into something bigger, it's not for everybody. It is not for everybody. And I can't stress that enough. And it's hard. It's challenging. It challenges your belief systems. It challenges your bravery and your courage and your ability to stand for something. And these are all really important things that people don't think about when they consider starting their own business. Part of me wanted to say, listen, if you're that unsure, if you need that level of assurance from me, given what I do, then maybe this really isn't something that you want to take on. But here's the irony. Obviously, this person needs income, right? The flip side of the coin is, well, then you're going to have to find a job. And going out in today's marketplace as a senior executive, looking for a specific salary level and benefits and the whole deal in a company that is currently riffing those roles is going to be next to impossible. It's going to be very, very challenging. I wanted to do an episode that helped me explain to you if you're in that situation or if you know someone, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're considering a consulting service-based business. It could be any kind of business. The point is it's a solopreneur business. So it's basically you going out on your own, all by yourself in that ship out in the ocean. Oh, I'm all by myself. Here I am drifting and blah. Well, get the oars out and start paddling because that's what it's going to take. Whether you look for another job to replace your income or continue with your corporate career, you're going to have to work hard and talk to a lot of people and apply for a lot of jobs in order to find that role. It could take a couple months. It could take years. So I can say the same thing about starting a solopreneur business. And here's the caveat. And then I'm going to get into talking about the fears and beliefs that limit the freedom that you will have in order to take that bold step and start your own business. I recommend reading Elaine Pofelt's books called Tiny Business, Big Money. And she just went around and interviewed, in her book prior to that, similar kind of theme. But this was more focused on solopreneurship that actually went into a larger business. And there's tons of stories in there about how these entrepreneurs got started. And since the season's all about starting, I recommend that you get that book. And she's a great gal, by the way. I've had her on my last podcast. Anyway, I digress. When you're looking at starting that business, you will be confronted with challenges around fears and beliefs. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But here's the thing. There's an opportunity that awaits whether you are going back into the workforce or that you're starting your own job. That opportunity is a growth opportunity. If you're looking to go back into the workforce, you may have to take a pretty large salary cut. You may have to change your focus a little bit. So instead of being a vice president or a senior executive in the C-suite, you might just be a director or a general manager. And a lot of these folks that are coming off of really pretty good caliber roles are having a hard time with that, which makes perfect sense. Here's what I want to really get across in this episode. When you start your own business, you are the master of your domain. You have the ability to chart your course and move forward at the pace, speed, and intensity that you are willing to put out there. Yes, is it hard? Yes, of course. Is it going to be challenging? Yes. Is it going to have moments of incredible elation when you get a great introduction or a proposal or something happens where you get a new client? Absolutely. That's like the best part of being a solopreneur is when you're able to connect with somebody and do a deal and help them and make money and go like, I did that all by myself. Instead of thinking or looking at it as oh, I'm a little intimidated. I'm going to have to put myself out there. That was always done for me in the corporate environment. These opportunities just kind of were handed to me. I didn't have to work for them, versus taking a look at it from the standpoint of I can create anything I want. I can reach out to anyone I want. I can find the gaps that I want to serve. I can find the unique instances of where there's real opportunity, where problems exist that aren't being served in the marketplace that I'm really good at. And I can exercise the things that I enjoy doing, that I could do 24/7, that jumps me out of bed and gets me rolling, that I just can't wait to work on things. I could do it for free. I love it so much. So that's what's on the other side. Plus, pretty much limitless income. If you really put your mind to it, as a solopreneur, you could make a ton of dough, a ton of dough. And I think that's what a lot of people can't get over, that initial situation where they're just kind of like, oh my God, if I go out on my own, I don't have all these resources of corporate America. I don't have the relationships, which is not true, by the way. And we'll talk about that. And I'm not able to do what I need to do in order to move forward, versus really having a beautiful imagination and being excited about what's going on. Here's my prescriptive / prompt part of this conversation. If you find yourself in a situation where you've been laid off and you're pondering starting your own business, you don't need somebody like me to do that. There are a lot of people who have started their own business just like literally out of their trunk of their car. And they don't need a fancy website. They don't need a positioning and all that stuff. And here I am talking people out of doing business with me. What I want to do is remove the obstacle that is preventing moving forward. Many of my prospects will come to me and they won't have done any work toward building their network or reviving a network that they possibly had in corporate, and starting to let people know, hey, I'm on my own now. This is what I'm doing. What's going on in your world? Can we connect, have coffee, talk about what's going on? Is there somebody you can introduce me to? All the things that go into generating leads and getting sales. You don't need all that other stuff. And they'll come to me and they're like, well, I haven't done a website yet. And I was going to get a business card. You remember those business cards? And my LinkedIn profile still reflects my corporate experience and everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't need any of that stuff in order to go out and knock on doors. You need email and your cell phone. That's it. And that's what every pre-solopreneur or post-corporate exec should be doing, is going out and having conversations with the people in your network, growing that network, being really clear about this is what I'm doing now and I'm moving forward and I'm acting as if. The things that will come up that are related to fear include, obviously, the financial aspect. I no longer have benefits. How do I deal with that? I've got to find my own benefit source. I need health care. I have a family member that has a chronic illness. I can't lapse on my health care. COBRA's going to run out in X days or months. So those are the big concerns. If I do go ahead and work with somebody like Terry to build my personal brand, to set me up for success on the communication side and the marketing side, how much is that going to cost me? And is it going to be a worthwhile investment? So can you hear underneath all of these the fear behind this stuff? How do I get started? What if nobody wants to do business with me? What if I have a bad reputation in the marketplace? What if what I want to do, there's nobody who wants to work with a contractor / consultant? What if they are all insourced? What if I can't find the right opportunities? What if my hourly rate is too high? What if I price myself out because I don't know how to price myself in it to be competitive? So all of these questions, not to dismiss their validity, because it's what goes through our head. Because remember, the lizard brain takes over, because it's all about survival. So everything goes down to the bottom of Maslow's pyramid. Am I going to live? Am I going to live through this? And are my dependents, especially with the folks that are the breadwinners in the family, am I going to be able to support my family? And so those fears are very natural, common, and quite frequent when you're going through that type of a transition. Understandably so. But you have to understand that they're fears based on inconclusive evidence. It's like you're worried about something that's never going to happen, potentially will never happen. You're also worried about something that is not based on who you are and what you're doing right now. They're all things that are in the future that you're projecting will be a problem if you don't deal with them. That's what's getting a lot of the focus. It's where the attention goes. And because it's something that's at Maslow's bottom level of the pyramid, all about survival, it's going to be a huge driver of stress, overwhelm, worry, conservative actions. Like, I don't want to spend any money because we may need it for healthcare. I don't want to invest in renting an office or whatever the overhead would be for the business, because I may need it to eat or pay my mortgage or car payment or whatever that is. The first and foremost thing is get your finances in order, because that's always going to be top of mind. That's always going to be the first thing. So if you have been saving, then you should be in a good position, especially if you got a package. And I know some of these executives, they get like 2 years worth of salary. So it's like, why are you freaking out? It's like you could essentially, if you budget, you wouldn't have to work another day. I'm just kind of marvel and scratch my head at some of these folks when they're like, about money. Get your house in order when it comes to money. Figure out, okay, let's go on a budget. Let's focus on learning what it's going to cost to live without this salary. We're going to have to obviously get healthcare, et cetera. And then what's it going to cost for me to start my business? How much money do I have if I go 6 months, 9 months, a year without one new client or without one opportunity where income is coming in? Now, the likelihood of that happening is very low. You'd have to really be doing nothing in order for that to happen, because you'll pick up work. It'll just happen, especially if you listen to this episode and you take my advice. Okay, so we'll put the money thing aside, whether that's investment money or survival money, right? You want to just go ahead and put that to the side. Now, what's next? Well, the next thing is all about, am I good enough? That fear is going to be, how will I be perceived out in the world on my own? Will I be able to present myself in a positive light? Will what I do and what I offer be of value to others, where they'll pay me money to do what I do really well and enjoy doing? And it's all about looking good. Those thoughts are just that, they're thoughts, but they're also driven by beliefs, which are really just thoughts you keep thinking and agreeing with. I know it's a novel concept, but what's cool about it is those things are, again, fear-driven. They're belief systems that don't forward what you're trying to accomplish as a solopreneur, as a one-person business owner. And so you need to do some serious damage to those things. And part of it is like standing at the top of that super slide at the water park, where you're like, you look over and you're like, there's no freaking way I'm going to be doing that. They're like, okay, cross your arms, cross your chest, cross your legs, and go ahead and go. And then they kind of like almost push you down the thing and you're like, I'm going to die. And then you get to the bottom like, holy crap, that was amazing. And you run around and you get back to the top and you do it all over again. I say that because that was kind of like my experience going down one of those things for the first time. But let me tell you what, that's what it is when you start a business. It's about jumping on that slide and going for it and making it happen, realizing that you survived it. Not only did you survive it, but you can actually really, really thrive. And if you talk to anybody who's been in business for themselves for more than a couple of years, they will say, yeah, I was scared, what-less in the beginning. And these are the things I had to deal with and how I got started. And I did. I took a leap of faith and I focused on delivering amazing experiences, getting the work done, building my network, going after business. And eventually it did start flowing because I started seeing that I really had a lot of value, that I was able to get out in the marketplace and present my value and beat out other people who were doing the same thing, but at a different scale because I'm nimble. I'm able to operate me, myself, and I. So I have all kinds of flexibility, not only in my pricing, but my availability, how I'll work with somebody. And that flexibility is very appealing. When you're looking at addressing the fears around starting a business, all those things that I've already mentioned, the very, very best advice I can give you is to focus on who you'll be when things are working out, what you want out of your business. And this is your prompt, by the way. When you're nervous, when you're concerned about these things, sit down, get that journal out, or go for a walk and think about these things. What do I want my business to look like? How do I want to work? Who do I want to work with? What types of projects am I most interested in and enlivened by? Where can I find the opportunities to really do my best work? What are the kinds of people that I want to work with? What do I want to do with all the money that I'm going to be making as a result of having my own business and having the freedom and flexibility? What can I do that nobody else can do because I have that flexibility? Won't it be great when I'm able to X? And just answer those questions. Because when you start focusing on where you're going and what you're interested in, what you're excited about, what you're looking forward to, that shifts yourself out of that current mindset that is trying to protect you. That's the lizard brain trying to protect you from any harm, survival issues, or whatever. And so it's saying, well, you can't do that, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? And so here's the trick to this. The trick is if you're really hung up on the current worry, whether that's a financial worry, whether that's just putting yourself out there and take a risk at being not liked and not loved by everybody or not protected by the big corporate mama, that's understandable, but just be broad about it. Say, you know what? I get that I'm nervous about this. I get that I'm not the greatest salesperson, that I like working on projects. I don't like going out and putting myself out there and posting all over LinkedIn and doing all these things in order to run the machine, if you will, which not everybody has to do, by the way, just so you know. They're all things that help, but it's not what you have to do. The most important thing is when you're starting out, and let's say that you're able to control your thinking. And what I mean by that is just kind of relax and say, you know what? Let's just stay in the moment. I'm taking action on the things that I need to take action on, whether that be financial, healthcare, whatever. And I'm also building a business. And so what is the mentality? If you had your best friend and they were starting a business, what advice would you give them? How would you talk to them in such a way that enables them to feel excited about where they're going? Versus, oh, you better not do that because, what if somebody does this and then you're out of business or then this will happen? Acquaint yourself with things that feel good. Always look to your emotions because that'll tell you how you're thinking. If your emotions are negative in nature, if they're stressful, worrisome, fearsome, angry, any of the negative emotions, then you're not thinking the right way. Get out of the worry, move away from that, just go, you know what? Everything's going to work out. Let me start focusing on where I'm going and how exciting that's going to be. And build that in your mind. Create mind pictures, mental pictures about what that's going to be like. Get centered on the emotion of it and focus there. Because if you spend all your time justifying why you're going to fail, guess what? You're going to bomb. So you definitely don't want to give any additional energy to thoughts and belief systems that are trying to protect you, which is okay, it's understandable, but you can also shift and start looking toward where you're going. If you have any concerns, any fears that are holding you back, I suggest you sit down and really do some writing or do some walking meditations where you think about, where is this coming from and why am I agreeing with this negative belief about myself? Like, oh, I'm not a good salesperson. Oh, I'm not a good marketer. Oh, I look terrible on camera. Oh, I just want to do the work. I don't want to have to go out and knock on doors. Well, if that's really how you feel, then maybe solopreneurship is not for you. And you have to make that decision early on, because it's a great opportunity for you to grow, expand, be courageous, and earn a lot of money doing what you love to do. At the end of the day, it's your choice. It's your choice to agree with a positive thought. It's your choice to agree with a diminishing thought about yourself. None of that stuff is real. What you agree with and what you believe in is what you make real. If you're focused on where you're going and very positive about it and excited about it and living in that future dream state, then you are going to start attracting people who want to work with you. You are going to start having these opportunities just drop in your lap. This is how it works. It worked that way in my world, and it will work that way in yours. I could just keep talking about this because I'm so passionate about overcoming these negative beliefs and these fears when you're starting your business. So good luck starting your business and overcoming these fears, which, by the way, it's not just about when you start your business. It can happen at any point in the lifespan of that business, including, let's say you take on or have the opportunity to take on a really big client and you're like, oh, how am I going to get this done? It's the same process. That's going to be so cool working with this client. It's going to give me so many opportunities to learn about this new industry, to get involved in this technology, blah, blah, blah. That's where you should be going, not, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. I've got this other stuff over here, and then we're supposed to go on vacation. Oh my God, eye roll. I think you get where I'm coming from. I hope that's helpful, and go ahead and see what's really there and do some work on it. All right. See you soon. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one. Bye.